last night we had this vote-a-rama, tons of amendments flying back and forth, and a lot they didn't pass, and they were never going to pass. They were only there so that someday someone could put them in a campaign ad that so-and-so voted against this nonsense or whatever. But let's go into some of the important ones that were voted down, and then we can also talk about some that actually went through, because they are significant and some are the worst. So the hours-long stretch began with a vote that would prohibit funding or regulations to establish the Green New Deal, with Senator John Barrasso, a Republican of Wyoming, declaring that any such provision will reduce the quality of life for American people. Millions and millions of Americans will suffer. That's nice and Orwellian for you. I'm sure Madison Cawthorn will enjoy that one, but no, that's not how any of that works. And thankfully that was voted down, which is good. But Democrats did support some amendments. Among those was an amendment put forward by Senator Tommy Tuberville, again, real name, to penalize local governments that reduced funding for the police, reflecting a conservative push to attack Democrats over calls to defund or abolish police departments. So that went through. That actually went through. And so you had Cory Booker, who said, "I am so excited, and I just can't hide it. This is perhaps the highlight of this long and painful and torturous night." He proclaimed in response, urging his colleagues to not walk, but sashay down there to vote for the amendment. "I'm sure I will see no political ads attacking anybody here over defunding the police." So there's obviously some level of sarcasm, I guess. But the joke is on you, because of course, those ads will still run. There's not gonna be a single host on Fox who's like, "Oh man, I thought they wanted to defund the police, but I had that so wrong. Cory Booker, you're so reasonable. I want to give you some sort of award for this." But anyway, that did pass, JR.
Well, at least I think obviously he's highlighting the ridiculousness of that non-binding amendment that Tuberville put in to say, anybody who decides to defund the police can get some punishments and all that stuff. So he's like, well, yeah, this is non-binding. This is pretty easy for us to all vote on. So I think in a way it's pointing out how much of a clown show people like Tuberville are trying to insert into this system, which, by the way, all of this defunding the police that they keep talking about has happened widespread across the country, and how it's destroyed police departments and crime is up in the summer like it is every summer. Then they point out how it's defund the police, it's defund the police. So that's what happened. Can you show me some proof? Can you show me this, the defund and then the cause and how that affected them and how they all now don't have their tanks anymore and therefore they can't fight somebody who has a parking ticket that's gone to collections? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what it is that they think is happening. Well, they don't really think anything's happening, but at least Cory Booker, I think, was showing the joke in a clown show that they really are.
Yeah, I honestly, of all of the nonsense that has dominated the news in the past year, whatever, at least these attacks have some basis in reality. Like they're saying they want to defund the police. Well, okay, they're going way overboard in terms of how much defunding and going way overboard in terms of how many Democrats actually support literally any of this.
Right.
But at least some people want to cut the budget at least a little bit. It has some relationship to reality. A lot of the stuff about critical race theory and Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head's junk or whatever, that has nothing to do with reality. So here, Republicans. Although no credit whatsoever to the Democrats who supported this overwhelmingly when it's absolute nonsense and won't stop the Republicans from criticizing them.
Absolutely.
Also, Josh Hawley had an amendment. It was voted 95-3 to add 100,000 new cops. But you can't be surprised that the Democrats are going to support this when Biden has been calling for a massive, tons more police. And whether it's because they're terrified of being said that they're gonna defund the police, or just they think the solution to everything is putting more cops on the streets. Yeah, they overwhelmingly support that. And so, we know what the cops do. We've seen a lot of it lately. Now there's gonna be 100,000 more of them out there. I'm sure policing Wall Street and wealthy tax dodgers and stuff like that, JR.
Yeah, I mean, all those cops on the streets, they go after all those white collar criminals that are gaming the system, that they paid politicians to allow them to game that system. So we'll see if this logic comes into play anytime soon. It never does. They can always say these things, and when it doesn't happen, we just move on. This is another one. It's the same thing over and over again.
Another one. So now, we got past finally. We have a couple more of these that we want to talk about, but under a different label. We'll get to it in a second. But we now they got past all that stuff. The procedural hurdle was passed, and the blueprint now heads to the House, where lawmakers will return. Look at this. Will return early from a scheduled summer recess the week of August 23rd to take it up. So it's the 11th. They're coming back on the 23rd, and that's early. You bastards. Anyway, so like they're gonna have to like stretch like, oh, I've been laying by the beach for weeks. Oh God, I guess I'll talk about this briefly. But anyway, moderate Democrats are also agitating for a standalone vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package so that they don't have to do this. That would be great. Progressives have said they will not vote on the infrastructure bill until the House approves the budget package. And there were tweets from people like Ilhan Omar just yesterday about this, that they are still maintaining that strategy. And so that's there. So they'll have to take it up. They'll have to vote on it. All the actual details will have to be hammered out because we have these sort of like broad ideas and goals, not actual legislation, but supposedly that legislation will then, like 3 weeks later, be ready to go. Chuck Schumer says he hopes to have it done the week of September 15th, which is the week that I'm supposed to go to Gen Con. So we'll see how that works out. But anyway, JR, that's the process. The House on the 23rd, it'll be done by the 15th. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on if the House is gonna go ahead and stand by, their promise to make sure that the other infrastructure bill that includes more human infrastructure, if they're gonna stand by that before they'll sign on to this. I mean, of course, that's been triggered by a lot of these progressives that want something more done, because this is how the bipartisan thing even got this first level, is because of them allowing this to be opened up to be shot holes into and then poison pills tossed in and anything else that they want. And we know that's gonna happen again. And I don't know why more people aren't saying it out loud. Even the folks from these congressional members who want something that will go also to this human infrastructure idea. Point out now what's gonna happen. It's the thing I don't really understand. I don't know if there's some kind of marching orders that are there to be like, hey, don't say anything bad about this yet, because we want to take this political victory lap first. And again, if you're taking a political victory lap, you should probably not announce, hey, you guys, we want to take a political victory lap. No, we want to announce how great it is that we're doing something for you. Leave it at that. But the problem is they can't, because it's more important to take that lap than it is to say we're gonna make sure something gets done. And actually probably do hope people stop paying attention, so that when all the other things jump in, at the end they go, we finished our bipartisan bill. Joe Manchin is threatening things, Kristen Sinema is threatening things, and we appeased everyone. And once you appease them, you know something is off.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.